Hello.
Oh, there we go.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Our topic is how do you envision change happening in therapy? So I read the article of Jay Lebo, and here's the key advantages. There's comprehensive understanding, there's flexibility, broad applicability, personalization, combining strength, objectivity, and training benefits. And for challenges and criticisms, there's complexity. It's just like the multidisciplinary topic that we discussed a while ago. Lack of rigor, over-ambitious goals, potential for incoherence. So Lebo concludes that while integration presents challenges, its flexibility, adaptability, and comprehensive approach make it valuable model for family therapy. The key is to maintain theoretical clarity and intentionality when blending methods. As the field in as the field evolves, integrative approaches will likely play an increasingly significant role alongside traditional school-specific models, fostering richer clinical practices and more personalized care. So just like what we discussed in preparation for community practice, uh, it is it will be beneficial for the patient if we are flexible in our approach and in our method when we are treating the patient or the client. We're not we are not how do you say that? It's not only one method that we use, but we in depending on what the situation is, the personality, the background of the client, then we adjust to their need and to what will be more adaptive in their situation.
Yeah, this one actually reminded me of the one we just did uh in lab where we had common factors, because it's like you add any theory into the theory to make it adaptable to the situation. And that's how I understood integrating it into, the theory, is kind of just how common factors works.
So
If that
when
makes
I look,
sense.
yeah, it makes total sense because it was so fresh from yesterday. I understand that completely what you're saying. And when I look at this question, how I envision change happening, I look at it from a lens of the combination of personalized care to include the cultural competence, integration of technology, because we, have been faced with that. And we have to really focus in on the unique needs of the clients and understand the cultural and social backgrounds. And because, we are all from different walks of life, we bring a unique perspective to every situation as we integrate into this system of mental health. Uh, and I think it's I love being in this class because you can see how well spread they have made this go across all nationalities. We have a lot more men, we have a lot more people of color, and we have different perspectives and walks of life. And we've all from in this group have been in a hospital setting in some way, shape, or form. So we already have our own ability. We already have that flexibility thing that Kaiser requires us to have, um, and the broader audience that we have millions of people that come through our facilities that we provide healthcare for in some way. So I can see that's how I envision change happening in the therapeutic setting.
I thought that this is a good time for the clients, a good time for the the therapists, because I was thinking of, long time ago, there were very few models, or there were very few methods, and so the client may not be treated well because they only know this this few, and then they only stick to one method. If I want Bowen, then that's what I always do. That's what I always use as a method to treat patients.
Yeah, I don't want to be pigeonholed into one space either, where I only can utilize this therapy, because it might not always fit. And being able to intertwine them will definitely make it a more human experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Everyone's worldview is going to change. It's going to be different. And especially if you're doing therapy with an entire family, you're going to have
Oh,
possibly 4,
absolutely.
5, 6, however many is there. You're going to have all these different personality types. And maybe you even start with one and it might not be working, and you may need to then change your approach. And now there's a lot more lenses, I think, that we do have to work with, which is
True.
nice.
Yeah. As a therapist and as a patient, it's really advantageous and beneficial to both parties.
Agreed.
Do you want to add anything else on that first topic?
I think the conversation took a nice approach, because what we just discussed is what bullet point 2 is, which is, what does the integration of theory mean, and what would it look like in a theory of change?
It looks like we slipped that.
Right.
So we
Like
merged
one and
our
2.
conversation.
Well, I think they both intertwine. I think 1
Okay, very
and
good.
2 kind of goes together, because they kind of have similar answers.
Mhm.
So we kind of bled into that technique, like we would have.
We integrated our answers to those two questions.
We were using it already.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay,
So
so
to
what do we
number
do?
3.
We go to number 3.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that'd be a good one.
I have a couple more things I could say about
Yes, ma'am.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about the humanistic approach and the mindfulness in practice, as we did last night in lab. When it said mindfulness, I remember us, getting that focus, even though people who were in there, like, some people like me were, eyes open, like, I'm not the person that can be hypnotized because I'm in my own space, right? But I will respect the situation and, be quiet so everybody else can take it in. But I could see, the people taking it in. And it was because I couldn't hear it either. I couldn't barely hear what he was saying. So I was like, okay. But I understood to be centered and quiet. So those are, some of the circumstances that I see that are personalized, that are adaptable methods to fit into a client's unique situation. Because somebody might need to come into a visit and become focused, because they might have a lot of things going on in their head, and you might need to take that moment and, focus them into the moment so that they can share what their experiences are. That was my other thing, and that's that flexibility.
Absolutely. I agree with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point.
All right.
Very
So
good.
the last one, how does your background and your culture identify the influences with the theoretical perspective? Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Um, I'm a very open person who have had a lot of personal experiences. I have had some systematic issues with culture and practice, and it's a lot of things like that going on right now. And for it's different to see it from a different perspective, because it always seems as though my community is always at the front of this type of thing. And to see another community being at the front of this is kind of weird, right? And it's like, what do you do in those circumstances when you are not sure how you can benefit or how you can benefit others in that situation? So I found myself, hearing the classmate talk about it last night. I found myself, kind of sitting back and, just listening. And in that moment, I probably think that, I'm an advocate for me, right? I'm an advocate for the people around me. I would help take some of those barriers away from a client. When it comes to race and gender and age and, mental health, I know all about that, right? There's other things that I'm sure that I'm going to come across that I don't have such a stake in, or knowledge of. So I think those types of things need to be understood, and it's okay not to have the answer for everything. That's why I was a little reserved in our lab last night, because I really didn't know how to have a conversation around something that wasn't affecting me directly. You know what I mean?
And it's hard to, the news doesn't paint the picture how it actually is either. And then each individual that's being affected by what's going on is experiencing it differently also. So it's not a one size fits all, you know. So everyone's perspective is going to be different, of course. Everyone's going to be impacted by their world differently, you know. And that, I think, is where, education is going to be key.
And the
Look at
cultural
things up.
sensitivity. The cultural
Yes.
sensitivity is very big as well, I think.
Mhm.
And, I
Definitely.
have sensitivity around those types of issues. So I do understand it. But it was, like I said, it was it was a different place than I've ever been before.
Yeah. A little like outer body almost experience, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
it almost
You
seems
hit it. Yeah.
unreal,
Yeah, it kind of, yeah, it was like, but
I
that's one of
felt
those
like that
things where
too.
that it could happen at any place to any of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's how you
Um,
also know how things are different for different people,
Mhm.
you know. And while the classmate brought it up and they're having a hard time going through it, others might not. And they might be stressed out about a different aspect of what currently is going on.
Mhm. Because it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
just it's a swirl of a lot of different things. So you can pick one out of the sky and have
Mm-hmm.
that one, because you sure can't take it all on.
Mm-hmm.
But we will be. That's the thing, right? The culture
Right.
is the background, the identity, the influences, all of that will be a part of our perspective. So we need to go ahead and get on that boat right now, because we're going to be swimming in it, when it comes down to it. And I appreciate having these moments where we can have these conversations and speak about, those things openly in this forum. And I can't, when after this is over, I'm sure we'll be calling on one another, for our
yeah,
experiences, right?
yeah. And I am really thankful for our group, because although other people don't feel what's happening and what they're describing, but we support the person who's being very much affected.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I would think that for this number three, how the background and cultural identity play a significant role in shaping our perspective, theoretical perspective in therapy. I would say, for example, your cultural lens shapes you how you build rapport, establish trust, and relate to clients. So if you are a warm person and you are very approachable, it's because of the cultural elements that has affected you or that has influenced you. even your communication style, beliefs about authority and hierarchy. So that's where the culture comes in, how it affects us. And another one is for culture also, your cultural identity helps you recognize both your biases and blind spots. So, for example, I'm Asian. We don't have Black people in our in my country, but there is the hierarchy: who is rich and who is poor. That's where the biases and the gap is between the rich and the poor. So we don't know. When I came here, so I don't know what is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of Black? Why are they not talking to each other? Why are there conflicts? So I didn't know that. I cannot relate because we didn't have that. So another one is the worldview and values. The cultural upbringing, values, and experiences affect how you understand concepts like dynamics, mental health, personal growth. And so if you come from a collective culture, collectivist culture, you might emphasize family system theory. And if your focus is on interconnectedness and relational harmony, then that's that's your background, and that's how you flow. um what do you have any examples that you can think of about backgrounds and culture that can affect you?
I just think if
It,
we all went through our personal experiences, with either individual therapy or family therapy, we can utilize those. So, I'd have my own therapist, and because of that, I like the way she does techniques on myself. Or maybe we have a really good discussion, and I'm like, oh, I want to use that when I become a therapist, because it opens up the conversation and makes clients feel a little more comfortable when you can be a little bit more personable. Again, the person of the therapist truly comes in at this point because you're all encompassing yourself to
Mm-hmm.
sort of advocate for your client through your past experiences. I don't have much. I'm pretty privileged as I'm being more aware going through these courses. The only thing that I can say about myself is that I'm a people pleaser, a perfectionist, and a hard time on myself. So understanding those aspects of yourself, I think truly helps when you actually start seeing clients.
Yeah.
I agree, Christina. I am
I agree too. Yep.
I realizing the privileges I have. I've come from a perspective of my not having privilege, right? And it's funny because when Flo was talking about the black and white thing, right, in our country, it it's not formed from my perspective, right? It's not formed from a place. I wasn't raised, and none of the people that I know have been raised to think that less or more. We knew what we were. We know how we got here. We knew that there was some hierarchical things that separated the two, but we don't make it a situation, right? My family, rainbow. I have Caucasian, I have Filipino, I have Mexican, you name it, we have it in my family. And that's that intersectional thing that plays in our community. It helps heal and gives us insight. Collectively, we support one another, right? We
Mhm.
all have issues dealing with someone, but we don't we don't allow that to be transposed in our situation, right? But it's very hard when you're being in California. All these years really gave us a false sense of kumbaya, is what I call it. right? I have always been in this melting pot place where everybody seemed to be on the same kind of trajectory, but the reality was, I think it was fake. Because, you know, it was, there was some things that could be said for, you know, a bad apple or two, or maybe even 10, right? But you can't put that on to the whole race. Things happen, you have to get over it, you have to move forward. I too am a control freak. I need to have I dread situations where I don't have the ability to make sure things go the way that I feel like they should. So this is, but I do have the empathy, and I do have the compassion, and I do have that empowered advocacy thing in me that will allow me to advocate for anybody in a position that needs advocation, you know, the advocacy.
We say that, Melise. That's very obvious. So, do you have anything else to add? I'm not going to leave, but I want us to have a meeting after the recording is off.
Yes.
So we're good?
I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay, let me stop the
Thank
recording.
you.
Thank you. Stop.
Okay, so who's going to do this?